Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me. Polina here talking to you about the full moon in Scorpio on the 7th of May. It is now the 3rd, so I'm doing this a little bit later than normal. Just talking to you a little bit about this particular transit and what it means. So I've noticed that quite a lot of people have anxiety issues and they have like support issues and they're no longer feeling relevant or good enough in what they're doing or in what it all means. So there are many people, I believe, in the last 6 or 7 months that I've seen have anxiety and have self-esteem check-ins or self-esteem questioning. And that is not good, especially at this point in time. So we had a very, very interesting and fruitful month of April. It should really have come to an end or to a beginning. And whatever you have been anxious about, you really need to forgive and forget in order to build yourself a better future in the fixed sign of Taurus. But the main thing that I'm seeing is that not many people really like themselves and want to answer to themselves, especially in such close proximity. So being in quarantine for many people, there might be a negative feeling about self already, and especially if there's any escalation with other people, with your friends, and with your significant other, there has got to be a stop to it. So basically, one of the greatest things during this transit is simplicity, embracing what is simply yours, embrace who you are. Embrace the simplicity of your life and also the simple choices and methods that you might have at hand. So there's nobody else that perhaps also knows how to do things but you. There's not going to be anybody else that's going to be able to help but you. So you have all the keys and you have all the rhythms and all the journeys and all the stories inside of yourself. And you don't really have to worry so much as to the complexity of it all. And sure enough, sometimes when you're looking at other people, your peers, even your family, it seems like things are so easy for them or how things are done by another or the processes that another has are like way beyond you. But it feels to me that within the simple now and the simple, how can I say, like, in the sense, show and tell of what is yours and a security in who you are and what you know how to do well is basically the best. And it feels to me that is going to help you secure yourself and a greater, more productive mind, because here we have Mercury close to the Sun that has just passed Uranus. So although neurologically speaking, we are no longer shifting our inner identity, it feels to me that we still are kind of deliberately creating through who or what we now know. So what I mean here is that it is still how can I say, forming itself through inner explanation. So, how we feel about ourselves, what we ourselves desire, what we ourselves define, is still being formed through the simple choices in everyday life. So, the way that you wake up, the way that you do what you do, how you do what you do, is going to form a security or a certainty about who you are in the future. So, it's an inward feeling for some people, and for some people, it is outward. It is what you say outside. And for those of us who are outwardly based during this time, you have to also see the type of phenomena that you're calling in with another person, with other people, based on your output. So please have a look. For example, if you are working with social media, any kind of information technology, anything to do with human communication, please have a look as to what you are radiating, what you are creating, what you are establishing, what you're growing, and the kind of vision or the kind of truth that you are letting shine or letting show during this particular type of month. So, at the beginning of May, please already have a look as to how your inner sincerity and the wisdom that you're sharing with another person or the grace that you're giving other people is developing during this particular time. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the moon. So first, get stable, feel fine. Simplicity is the key. In the simple motions of the day, you will find yourself and what is right for you. So this is not about, like, say, going abroad right now. This is not just because of the quarantine, energetically. It is not about, like, say, reaching people far and wide unless it is within your energetic escrow to do it simply already. It is not about trying to ring the bell, trying to help people see who you are. It's not about managing people. It's not about trying to outsource, and it is not about stretching too far. Though this kind of moon can sometimes make one feel as if something is way out there. Also, with Chiron being behind the Sun in the 12th house to Taurus, it is something that a lot of people, I believe, will start doing, is thinking, feeling, believing, and trusting that there is someone else or something beyond their wildest dreams happening on the other side of the world, or there is a certain type of brilliance that they can reach in some kind of exotic or esoteric land. And the thing here is that that's not fine. So basically, what this means to me, it is not right for you to stretch yourself too far and to try too many things and to be too emotional, too intense about things in order to basically connect to yourself. Someone else might have what you've got. You know, it is very likely also here to understand that you have not made it. So for some people, there is something about making the cut. Rat sometimes steals places and securities. This has already been happening for about a year, even during Pig. Other people being, how can I say, placed in your position, or a different person having what you thought you would. So the thing here is basically, even though there is a little bit of a musical chairs kind of game, there are some people that are taking too much from each other. There are going to be perhaps always the situations where you feel it should have been you or it should have been meant for you, but someone else has got it. The thing here is basically not to make any jitter in your field until about the 8th or the 7th, of course, of May. Also, quite a lot of people are starting to push it. I believe that with this Mercury Sun conjunction, a lot of people are going to start pushing towards a greater goal. Also, Venus coming very close to the North Node. There will be more than enough things for us to do, and more than enough things for us to say if we are not careful with our time. So the thing here is basically to keep resourceful and to keep minimal. There are going to be lots of people trying to launch a career choice, trying to launch a move, trying to launch a relationship. But the thing here is that it is not it if it hasn't happened yet. And if it is going to happen, let it happen naturally and on its own terms or in its own turn. So one of the reasons why I feel some of the time people suffer later from their choices is that they burn really bright and passionately for their particular choice. You know, when it is within their mind, when they're considering it, and then once they have that person, or once they have that coming of terms with these choices, or once they generate that particular thing, they don't know what to do with it. So it's very easy to bite much more than you can chew during this time. So if you are really, really emotional about, how can I say, gaining your own self-trust, if you don't have enough of it, by launching something or creating something or being perhaps too far out there, that has to come to an end as well. Because you see, some of us might be able to start something or might be able to create this global overall decision or truth, and then we don't know what to do with it. So sometimes, for example, people can start making money a certain way, not knowing that it is too much for them to handle later. People can pass a certain law or start a certain type of ethic at their home that they cannot later afford, or there could be something or someone in their lives that is going to become extra interesting or extra special that they cannot later contain. So this is like adopting an animal. Right now, adopting an animal and deciding that your family needs like a, how can I say, a new force, like say a puppy or a cat, might not be exactly what you need right now. So this might be like constant going to the vet, you know, constant issues. Maybe you can very easily here adopt a premise or a person or a being or do a thing that then later will cost you a lot more than you expect. So the thing here is basically to hold on unless you're very confident. So for example, if you're always naturally a writer, and you've been writing for example, 7 or 8 years, and you just write as a byproduct of your existence, as do I, For example, launching right now a blog, or creating some kind of a dream where you're writing and writing a lot is going to be feasible simply because it is so neutral to you. But for example, if you never wrote anything in your life and you start now writing as a way to find your inner discourse, and a way to give greater love and greater feeling to yourself is going to be perhaps a little bit, how can I say, non-constructive. So launch only that, or those things that you know are just simple. So for example, if you always sew and you decide to suddenly create a new brilliant dress or a new brilliant design, that is a so-so idea, but it can still work out pretty well for you as long as you don't have too much emotional passion and sort of like this deformative need to make it real. So some people have this need to, I finally want to make it real. Like, I finally want to conceive a perfect relationship, or I finally want to write something that matters or do something that matters. All that matters is already inside of you. So that's the main thing here, is not to answer yourself badly, not to feel negatively about who you are, and definitely not to feel skeptical or angry about whoever you've been in the past. So I feel it is very testing for some of us just to see as to who we've become and what are the types of maybe things we were part of, maybe the types of people we have around. And then there's this also other thing that's happening here, as this finding it hard to explain, it's getting pretty smoky in here. Another thing that's happening with us, I believe, is we are not quite yet sure on who we are, so much in some cases that we start to scrutinize and kind of dig into one another. Taurus is a very, very gentle and sensitive time. Sometimes people might not like each other for certain things, and sometimes it is very easy in a time such as this to blame another for something that you yourself have done. So, for example, it's very easy to find out that, for example, you have a knack for making friends on the wrong side of life. Or you find the ambiguous curious and exciting, or for example, you have lust for certain people that are unavailable or that aren't good for you in the long run. And here we are perhaps blaming other people for being these types of people. And we have to stay strong and be good to us and not worry or not have so much praise to give to certain people and so much judgment to others. So Taurus is a very sensitive time also because it feels everything. Even though it is a very robust, practical, and sometimes very boneheaded sign, it is also very, very unique and very, very healing in the way that it kind of just knows how things are done. And sometimes because like, okay, so I found out that these types of people are not great for me, or these types of territories are not fruitful, there can be a boldness and a robustness in these fields later. And right now, especially, it is very detrimental to go, right, I'm no longer seeing that person because I know the type of person they are, or I'm no longer putting my work towards that publisher or that company because I don't trust them. So, like, this kind of like lack of trust and this phenomenal deep need to heal through hurt sometimes can make this time very, very uncomfortable and very, very uncompromising later. So this can program a very stubborn and uncompromising being. So what I believe is that we have to stop judging ourselves and each other, especially when it comes to collectives and groups, in terms of what they provide and the type of people they are. So then you may not any longer later in the future have these judgments pursue you and make lots of patterns that we call karma here. So the thing here is not to judge us, not to judge each other. If you are suddenly recognizing or realizing you really don't trust the government, you don't really trust these types of people, or there is a certain type of lover that you've had before and that has repeated for many people and you don't want to generate, the thing here is basically not to also trust other people more, and not to try and change your views, just basically not to make that feeling, sorry, gonna blow out the candle, too robust in your mind. So one of the greatest things that I trust this kind of moon can bring is sustenance. And why sustenance is because you no longer mind, or you don't any longer care. And the thing here is basically to diminish that jitter that you've got. Most people, I think, by now have some kind of jitter or jittery feeling, or jitter about their past, or maybe a jitter about their present or their future. The jitter has to be gone, and the most sustainable, self-sustaining path is the one that is normal and simple. So this is the thing. Sometimes people at this type of juncture can have a very enormous need for a unique or a curious relationship. Sometimes people want to make things out of the blue. Maybe they come up with ideas that are completely dissolving who they are, or they dissolve the previous situation. Maybe some people are trying to pursue a situation or a partnership that would no longer, how can I say, harbor the same patterns that they had in the past. Some of us are already trying to make alternative routes and make something real, something true that has not yet come to pass. This kind of far-fetched nature is going to catch up with us later on in a month, but at this point, to do something and to deliver and to make a spectacle of yourself or of other people right now is probably not the the weirdest thing to do, but how can I say, it might be annoying or unnerving later. So sometimes people might speak out about something. Maybe people have a new sort of like gender identity, or they have a new way of delivering message, or they have a new kind of like calling. And those of us that are secure may not buy it. So this is the thing. It's like unirregular or irregular markets, irregular people. So it's very easy to become um, mainstream for you, but not mainstream for another. So what I mean is, like, for example, you're launching a really out of it brand campaign. It can have a very niche market and may not go any further than the underground or a niche. So I believe if you are a deliberate creator, if you're making something for you, if you are trying to creatively make purpose or pursue a certain dream, at this point, launching anything or stating anything to anybody right now might be a little bit either too late or too early, or just not good enough. There is something a little bit indefinite about any kind of statements. But for those of us that have closed in, and we have an inner mind or an inner conversation and an inner healing happening, to state these things as a must. So, for example, if within your own space, in your own meditation practice, or in your own contemplative practices, you suddenly state to yourself, okay, I have been used, okay, like, or I'm just like rushing around trying to do too many things for people, then those people expect those things. Or like, I've actually noticed that I don't any longer have to recall a certain pattern in my life, or a certain karma, especially with other people, is no longer just, or I'm now no longer, how can I say, sustained or loved in a certain way, and I have to stop that pattern, or I have to like cull that massive karma with another person, then that's great. Also in the healing, in the wounds, any kind of also public display is fine, but just make sure that you are real, and that you are not, how can I say, then later depending on this essence, or lowered in energy or stamina because of it. So, for example, coming out publicly about something for some people can be a blessing and a debilitation at the same time. Um, Getting there, okay, like trying to make a certain point, if it is very true to your heart and it is entirely all about you, and you can finally speak out about negligence or abuse or anything like that, there are going to be ways in which this can later irk you out unless you keep it inside. So that's the thing. It's like keeping yourself innocent. Though there is a calling, like a calling to make a big public, or like even a juvenile sort of display of yourself, I think that it is very, very possible to later on in the years not know how to erase this. Okay, so the main thing I believe is to keep a lot of these sentiments private. Though, yes, I do see that there's going to be a lot coming out to the public eye, or be imprinted into your energy as and how people identify you and who you are. But please be gentle. So that's the thing, is like sometimes with this type of energy, especially if there's like lack of trust or there's fear, that you haven't yet accomplished something, there are going to be some people that are going to perhaps, how can I say, speak out with tears in their eyes, or there's going to be a sort of a lack of trust, or that lack of realization is going to cloud one's mind. So, for example, speaking out and crying, speaking out about really, really terrible things, being very, very perhaps also repressive to other people, arguing. This seems like a court date. It seems like a day in court. There are also those of us that don't really want to see us this way anymore. So, like, for example, okay, you see something's going on in your country, or the political situation, and you just don't want that anymore, and you're speaking out and you have tears in your eyes, anything like that, it's just not great. So, if you are there, and if you want to display sadness, and if you want to display distrust, please go ahead, okay? Because I see that there's going to be a lot of people just feeling those feelings anyway. And if there are ways in which you can kind of see past it and you can already reach a point of transcendence, try not to. So the dialogue is much better left alone and within your own center. Also, it is so good not to surface anything that is too emotional or too intense or intriguing. And it is very, very lucky for us not to have those people in our lives right now that densify you enough to have the meaningful night of the soul discussion. So what I'm seeing is that night of the soul discussion, the deep and meaningful chat, for many of us can do more harm than good. Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of people like, no, Polina, but you have to have the night of the soul. No, 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 don't have the night of the soul. If you really want to kick your own butt, have some water, exercise, go to bed early. Really, if you really want to kick your own butt, like, discover yourself as a body, as a physical at this point. It is not good for popping questions, popping secrets, asking those big things. Though there are some people that will only feel sexy and will only feel enormous and emotional for other people if they have the capacity to have that, how can I say, feeling share with another person. So what I mean is, like, there are some people that have groomed themselves and others to believe that the most important time you can have with another person is if you have these very sensitive topics, and all these deeper, meaningful discussions come to play. There are time and places for these people, and there's time and place for these discussions, but I believe that right now, the best story is your own inside. And I also don't trust that people with too much emotional, spiritual, public, uh, egoic sort of center or view of themselves are going to be the ones that we want to see later. So what I mean is, like, for example, you might believe through some kind of conduct in your life that you are worth so much more to another person because you can touch on these sensitive topics and bring out those snakes, in another person, or bring out those demons. But because of how we place right now, and I believe also we're collectively looking for, like, a nice, easy, whole reality. Um, these people are only tools, perhaps, and maybe some of that enigma starts to hurt others later, and we maybe not say anything, but say, for example, should a group meet later in time, these people are sometimes not invited. So what I'm saying to you is that if you're especially basing your relationships right now on these deep, emotional, sensual, energetic things, and you're trying to evoke a certain type of night of the soul in another person, or you're digging into them and you're trying to teach them who they are, and you're trying to open their eyes, maybe you are only a tool in the situation, and maybe later in time, even later this year, you're no longer going to be part of their story. So make sure you're not that doctor, not that tool, because we've got Chiron behind the sun. We also have this Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn thing going on. And the thing here is also at an aspect to Mercury. There has got to be an okayness about not making that impact. So the need to make the impact, basically, like this whole video so far has been about this very sentence. The need to make an impact is a false feeling. So, like, the ego wants to make the impact. The ego wants to suddenly belong and to make an impression. But that impression, basically what I'm trying to say this whole video is not permanent, and it's temporary, and it might be also for a laugh, or just not for us later. So you make an impression, you never see this person again. Okay, don't basically. If you can know what you know. So this is a very, very beautiful time for a silenced person or a person that has never really had that much to say and never really had that much ego to show. It's a perfect time for the type of person who just goes, okay, that feels weird. It's not for me. Or like, oh, that feels good. I think I'm going to try that. So this is where Taurus is probably at its best. It's kind of like poet of the obvious. And the thing that I'm seeing for us is that we can become much greater treasured and much greater loved and much better received if we just know what does and doesn't feel good for us. So, like, the awesome thing here is about just knowing and moving on or moving towards. The thing here, it is not really about going against the grain, but sometimes you might see, okay, all the grain goes that way in my life, but I actually want to change it. I actually really don't think this is the right thing anymore. So, some people can curb huge, ginormous karmic patterns. So, it's like, I know this type of guy. So you met somebody on a dating media sort of network thing, and then you just go, okay, I know this type of guy. Okay, and then you swerve. Okay, swerving. Honestly, during this particular month, especially later on as it develops, we're gonna be really blessed for swerving. So like this is a breaking of cycles and breaking of patterns, and just knowing what it means to be whole. And I think a lot of these options have to be made via the inner compass or the inner being. So, for example, I know like when I eat a lot of sugar, I feel like this swerve. Okay, I know these people are coming to my house, but I know what they want. Swerve. For example, I know that just the other day, okay, I know that I don't usually how can I say, eat a lot of certain things because I've been conditioned to leave them for another time because they're precious. Like, I got a whole kilo of strawberries and I couldn't imagine eating many of them because I meant to save them, right? Swerve. So I'm gonna eat all the strawberries. Like, eat all the strawberries. Have a day off. You know, like try different things. Try a different beat in your own life, but don't make it about other people benefiting. It is all about you. So the closer you are to center, and the more you feel adjusted and proud about who you are and what it means to be you and what it means to be here, the better you're going to be. So this is not about like trusting people to nod their heads because of what you do. So, for example, you might find already at this point a very, very unusual and unique way of creating. You might find a very unusual way to creating abundance, or you might just be almost at the top as to what you know now can bring you much better things. And the minute that you walk out into the public eye and you try to make an impression, you could lose that very seed. And come time, somebody might take your idea, or somebody might take your money, or even you could create an abundance cycle that later goes all towards like your mortgage, or like, you know, your mother, or just like some kind of debt or bills. The thing here is basically not to spill your beans. So there is a secretive energy there. Keep it inside of you, so keep it holy. So the things that you really understand and know now that you keep within are going to pay you, and they're not just going to pay you, they're probably going to pay you to the extreme. But the minute that you are eternalizing and externalizing, like eternalizing what you think, and you are like raising your energy, and you're trying to tell someone off, you're trying to do this dance that is open and obvious to other people, I think you might actually find that someone else can unconsciously or in the next while steal or take what you made. Okay? So, like, this is about gathering. This is like hunt and gatherer, you know, like hunting and gathering. This is about like hunting for the best things inside and gathering the best fruits of your life so far. And keeping that sacred and keeping that powerful for yourself. But the main thing that I believe most people may not want to know is we live in a very extroverted sort of society, or extrovertedly powered society, extrovert powered society, is that not many people know what to do while they're in the state of innocence and all these realities are coming through so much they tickle, you know? And why this happens is because people don't want to know themselves, and sometimes a person on their own in their own room or in their own homes it's like the scariest thing ever because people don't know what to do with the fact that they are here. So this coming to terms with the fact that you're a real person, and the coming through of the inner needs and the inner feelings and the inner sensitivities can really freak some people out. And you can do a lot there. I mean, don't laugh at them. You know, there are some people, you know, maybe in your family or close to you, that aren't real enough yet for themselves, and they're scared just because they're facing who they are during this time. And sometimes it's very easy to externalize a dialogue and make it all about pressure and push and make believe, and sometimes having an effect on one another because people are really tired of being alone, maybe. Okay. And maybe to some other degree, there's also like things that are happening inside that are not for us to tell, but we don't know what to do with them. So there's like a new level of aliveness or nature awakening, and we're super scared maybe of saying what that is. And that can create a very, very different inner dialogue. And for some people, it's not about like a psychotic state, but it's just about meaning and delivering not that which is innocent, but basically trying to cover up your inner potential with externalized or maybe even fake emotions. So that's the thing, is that it might get very grotesque for some, but the answers have come. So I think that already in the last half a year, I think a lot of us have fully received insight and have opened our eyes about what it means to be here and who everybody is in our lives. And I also believe and trust that many people have already recognized the real potential of anything in their lives. And maybe it is not vocal, maybe it is not verbal, but it is there, it is within. And I think that now we have to basically recognize how to reel it all in and make it important for us, or how to make it safe and precious within ourselves without making, how can I say, one of those ecstatic stories or external stories that may no longer be needed later in life. So what to do with these treasures of insight, how to keep yourself together, what to do about your family, how to recognize the people in your life, what to really do with your resources, how to deliver yourself from one state into another. So this is like an inner wealth thing. So it's inner wealth, inner abundance, inner speech, inner clarity, and also the inner comic coming through and busting all these bubbles. So what I mean is delivering yourself from karmic debts and receiving a little bit more, maybe even a lot more, for your efforts than before you have done. And the most amazing thing during this time is actually kids, I believe, children, and the gaze of the innocent, and trying to trust internally as well as externally. So feeling full of life, full of hope, full of trust and potential, and maybe even in that which has hurt you before. You know, this is like brownie points. You know, this is like brownie point level. Even in who you have perhaps been hurt by before, even in those people that have not respected or answered you correctly, you will find grace in God and learn to trust even them. So this is more about neutralizing, creating an alkaline existence, finding way to see hope, and not try to push on through when there can actually be no door or no way. So I hope that you can seize your fire if you're already feeling very agile and very electronic or electromagnetic during this time. Seizing that sort of rat activity, so that sort of foraging and constant needing to find, embedding what you have and who you have, and trying to trust more and more. So from inner trust grows an aura of trustfulness, and then perhaps indeliberate innocence. Okay, so innocence, okay, there's one more thing. It's something that has been forced by society. It is something that has got a label and it's got like a certain sort of like flavor to it. But like innocence, that is the true flavor of innocence, is usually in the moment in time, and it changes. It shifts with the tides. That has to be found inside, and it cannot be mimicked. it cannot be copied, it cannot be a cultural thing. It's always an internal process. So thank you very much. Enjoy. And if you'd like, get reading, visit my site. I'm going to be updating it soon, and there's books coming through. And I've just done a few things with music recently, just for my own fun and enjoyment. So yes, if you want to know more about me, there's information on the side. If you want to message me or talk about something, or if you want to ask some questions about readings and things, I'm totally here. So thank you very much. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Actually, I will also see. Yeah, I will also show you this. It's really cute. I just want to show you where I'm staying at the moment. Some people are worried about me, like, how's Peru? It's really beautiful. So I just shifted rooms. There's this beautiful landscape here. I really love these people a lot. So thank you very much for your concern. I'll see you next time. Bye.